Mark Mitchell was granted a temporary restraining order from the NCAA. He's entered the transfer portal with a do not contact tag, and it more than likely means the Kentucky Wildcats are just hours away from getting one of the best players in the SEC.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe. On today's episode of the show, Mark Mitchell is officially eligible. Judge Brian Edwards doing work in the courtroom, granting Mitchell alongside other plaintiffs a temporary restraining order. Mitchell has entered the portal with a do not contact tag. I think we all know what that means. But also, the NCAA just won a huge battle in court, and all of this, even with Mitchell becoming eligible, makes no sense. The good news is, though, Kentucky's probably a few hours away from getting one of the best players in the SEC. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. I want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe to the show. And if you are listening on podcast, I would also appreciate it if you subscribe there as well. So Mark Mitchell wins. He wins. He is eligible for now. And this is the news Kentucky has been waiting on. This finally turns this whole debacle with Mitchell from a courtroom hearing into an actual recruitment. Judge Brian Edwards in Jefferson Circuit Court granted the preliminary injunction requested by Mark Mitchell and the other plaintiffs. So that means Mitchell can now receive a fifth year of eligibility. He has entered the transfer portal already. He can communicate with schools, and he can play college basketball in the 2026-27 season unless this protection is later stayed or reversed. This is not the final resolution of the lawsuit, but practically speaking, Mark Mitchell is eligible right now. The NCAA, I think, foolishly fought this aggressively. Obviously, with Mitchell being a part of the class of 2022, playing 4 seasons, the new 5-5 rule screwing the class of 2022. They were caught basically in the wrong side of the transition. Everybody before the class of 22 being gifted extra eligibility because of what happened during COVID. Mitchell, 12 other athletes, by the way, it's 12 other plaintiffs sued in Kentucky. And then, as we've detailed over the last couple of episodes, Greg Sankey, commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, joined alongside other Power 4 commissioners from the ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, actually the Big East and Pac-12 as well. They all urged Judge Brian Edwards, to not grant the relief. Their argument was that bringing these athletes back created roster instability, and yet today, Judge Brian Edwards granted it anyway. Paused for water already a couple minutes into the show. More of a celebratory thing than anything. Also, I'm just thirsty all the time. It's not a bit, despite what some people say. Mitchell did exactly what he needed to do. Thank goodness. And we'll get to details why, because some other things happened in federal court earlier today that, had he not joined this lawsuit in Kentucky, Mitchell wouldn't even have a chance to come to Kentucky. Incredibly important, because he no longer has to depend now on a nationwide ruling in Colorado. He's specifically gotten eligibility in the state of Kentucky. And as specified in the ruling, or in the hearing on Tuesday, or I think what was submitted on Tuesday, as verified by the court, they all know, as Mitchell has said, he wants to go to play at a school in Kentucky alongside a couple other plaintiffs as well. He now has the Kentucky court protecting him. He wants to play in the state. So now the question is, where is he going to play? Is he going to play at Louisville? Is he going to play at Eastern Kentucky? Is he going to play with the Cats? Well, the only team consistently linked to him throughout this entire process is Kentucky. And it would be really funny if, while sitting here talking about this on the show right now, he went ahead and committed, because this could happen literally at any moment. Kentucky's the only team that's been firmly involved. So more likely than not, by the end of today, Kentucky is going to get a player that just averaged 18.3 points per game, 5.2 rebounds, and 3.6 assists at Missouri. Arguably the best remaining player available in this final big portal wave. I mean, CBS Sports called him the best player available on the board. And to me, as far as what he does for Kentucky, He is a beautiful fit. We'll talk about that in more detail whenever he actually does commit, if he does commit. Knock on wood, fingers crossed. The legal barrier is gone, guys. Mark Mitchell's recruitment is finally, and we're gonna dive back into the court stuff in a minute, but for this, Mark Mitchell's recruitment is finally an actual basketball story. We're gonna talk about what he means on the floor for this team, not just what's going on in a court. This is not some law school final exam for you and I to dive into. This is not me having to put on the suit anymore and play armchair lawyer for you guys. Congratulations, Mark Mitchell. You are now eligible. More than likely, he's coming to Kentucky. Hopefully we get that answer here in a little bit. The NCAA also just won a huge battle in Colorado. So the reason I said thank goodness that Mitchell went ahead and actually joined a lawsuit in Kentucky or literally anywhere is because the nationwide injunction, in Colorado is not going so well. In fact, it's the NCAA's request to stay in the injunction has been granted by the 10th Circuit. So no more nationwide coverage for a lot of players. And that means some players Kentucky was going after. Let's break that down here in just a moment. Before we do it, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at The Game. Since 1986, The Game has been creating classic college hats that fans are proud to wear. Whether you're an alumnus, current student, season ticket holder, or simply someone who never misses a game, a great college hat is more than just apparel. It's a way to represent your school wherever you go. And this year, The Game is celebrating its 40th anniversary by giving fans a chance to save on some of their most iconic college hats. If you've been thinking about replacing an old favorite or adding a new one to your collection, now is the perfect time. Kentucky has a variety of hats over on The Game, and I own a couple of them, and they are absolutely incredible, super stylish, love wearing them out. Hundreds of officially licensed college hats to choose from over on The Game. You'll find the perfect fit for game day, and honestly, every day. Don't miss this chance to celebrate 40 years of The Game with 40% off your entire order. Visit thegamecaps.com and use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's thegamecaps.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Celebrate 40 years of The Game with 40% off. But don't wait. This anniversary won't last forever. All right, continuing along here on today's episode of the show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. Really appreciate you guys making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Subscribe wherever you are tuned in. This is huge news. I mean, I could probably check Twitter right now and see that Mark Mitchell has already committed. He has entered the transfer portal with a do not contact tag. That's the latest news that I have here. So if you are watching this after the fact, sorry if he's already committed somewhere or if he's committed to the Cats. Bad news here. Hold on. Real bad news. The NCAA just won a huge battle in Colorado. Like, I mean a huge battle in Colorado. So in case you have forgotten, the Colorado injunction that happened earlier this year with Judge Charlotte Sweeney providing basically broad sweeping protection to the class of 2022 that was seeking a fifth season is no longer operative because the NCAA requested to stay in the injunction and it was granted by the 10th Circuit. It's on pause while the appeal proceeds. Basically, it has not been overturned. It's just the official decision has not been made. The appeals court stayed in the injunction while the NCAA appeals. The practical consequence right now is pretty freaking big because the players who were relying on this case can't rely on it anymore. So the players that didn't enter the portal or didn't file an individual lawsuit, they have some major problems. So there are two types of players here right now that are fifth-year players in the class of 2022. There are the players with separate court protection. That includes players like Mark Mitchell, Jalen Washington, Jackson Kohler, Donovan Dent, Xavier Lee, other athletes who have obtained their own TROs or injunctions across various lawsuits across different states. Those players have an independent legal shield against the NCAA and whatever conference commissioner wants to whine and complain about whether or not these guys get eligibility. And then there's the second category, the category of the players that are screwed. Players whose eligibility explicitly, specifically depended upon one of the broader injunctions that has now been stayed. So those players have a problem. One of those players is Keyshawn Hall. Get why we're talking about this today. So if Mark Mitchell does not come to Kentucky, or isn't able to come to Kentucky at the end of the day, somehow, some way, Keyshawn Hall can't either, unless he somehow joins a specific case, like state case, like files a new lawsuit. He had received, well, actually, I don't even know if that's the case, because he received a preliminary injunction in Ohio, not merely Colorado, but the problem is the Ohio injunction has been stayed as well. MJ Collins, Javon Bennett, Josh Reed, other players there in that Ohio ruling. So Mark Mitchell protected. Awesome. Great. Keyshawn Hall, the other player Kentucky would go after here now that Jackson Kohler is off the board. He's not protected. He's not eligible. So Kentucky couldn't go after him right now, even if they wanted to. It's pretty wild right now that there's a reversal on one side and there is a stay on the other. And the funnier part about all of this is that it's not just happening in college basketball for Kentucky right now, for them to look at this and say, man, what on earth is going on with whether or not these 22 athletes are eligible or not. Because if you didn't catch it, Alex Afari, former Kentucky linebacker, had returned for a 5th season under the protection of the Colorado ruling, right? And he was, if I'm not mistaken, already back in the building, already practicing, etc. He wasn't seeking to transfer, so he didn't join one of these separate lawsuits. After today's stay, Alex Afari is no longer eligible. So not only did Kentucky lose Antonio O'Berry on the edge, which is a huge loss, both literally and physically, for Kentucky. The Gardner-Webb transfer, that dude is a freak of nature. Also, Afari is a major hit to Kentucky's defense as well. So 2 really, really bad pieces of news for Kentucky on the defensive side of the ball, for football at least. Indiana also had the same problem, honestly, with Kellen Wyatt and Stephen Daly, I believe, who are relying on the case and now are considered ineligible. So they're still practicing, but they ain't eligible. So rough. And now we've got categories of class of 2022 athletes that are or aren't eligible. At this point, honestly, I wish I had made one. I'm sure I think there's a college sports litigation tracker website that does a beautiful job of keeping track of all of these different court cases and what exactly they mean. I should have put together a flowchart to break down what exactly is happening in the portal, out of the portal, in courts, out of the courts, etc. Because all of this still makes absolutely no sense. And that's actually kind of what I want to talk about here to wrap up the show. None of this makes sense. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Before we do it, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's easy to play. Just make your free pick on who you will think will hit a home run in their game. If you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every day throughout the MLB season. Daily dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every day's games, whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on matchups across the league, and every game has somebody capable of going deep. And now you get your chance to make your prediction before the first pitch. If you're ready to play your game today, join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. All right, wrapping up today's episode of the show, Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to check Twitter one more time just to make sure that Mark Mitchell has not transferred. Fun little side note, Mark Mitchell overall in the transfer portal rankings over on 24/7 Sports is rated as a 5-star player, and he is the 6th ranked transfer. Only just 7 5-stars in this portal class. He is one of them. But none of this makes any sense at all for the NCAA and how this is playing out. As badly as the NCAA wants to stand their ground on this and make sure that these class of 2022 athletes get screwed, I'm going to stand my ground on complaining about it until this is over. How can Mark Mitchell be eligible and Keyshawn Hall not be eligible. Not because Mitchell played fewer seasons. It's not because Mark Mitchell has some obvious NCAA waiver that Hall doesn't. It's not because Mitchell's more deserving of some sort of fifth season. It's because these different lawsuits currently have different legal statuses. And I think that's nuts from a competitive standpoint. So think about what's going on here. A player's ability to participate in Division I athletics can now depend upon which lawsuit he joined, which judge heard it, whether that injunction was statewide, plaintiff-specific, or nationwide, whether a specific court stayed it, or whether his lawyers filed quickly enough. This is not a clean eligibility system that is being moderated and cleanly run by the NCAA. This is a mess. It is, it's some litigation, it's some roulette that's going on right now. And to take it back to what I was saying yesterday, and this is what I have in my notes written down. This makes the commissioner's argument about whether or not these kids should be eligible even harder to swallow, because their argument was that allowing these fifth-year players back creates instability. Look at what fighting them has created. Look at what fighting these athletes has created. Mitchell can play. Keyshawn Hall can't. Kohler can. Washington can. Afari can't. Other players are filing lawsuits around the country to obtain the exact protection that these guys have. If the goal was stability, we have reached the precise opposite. Again, I will stand on this hill. I will say this over and over and over again. They're not going to do it because they're going to stand their ground on this, and they're going to watch this thing burn down as the weak organization that they are. Give the class of 2022 a fifth season. Then start the 5-5. Like, that should have been the logic back in April. It should have been oh wait, guys, we can just go ahead and implement the 5-5 now. Make these athletes who are about to graduate/enter the portal, or graduate/enter the NBA eligible, so that they don't screw up and sign contracts, so that they don't go to the NBA, so that they make a decision now. Everybody would understand the rule moving forward. We could have a hard cut. This is it. This is the 5-5. We're going to make sure the class of 2022 is safe. There's no geographic advantage. There's no courthouse shopping or bouncing around here. It's no getting up and wondering in the morning on a Friday, August 21st, whether or not somebody is eligible and discovering at noon that, oh, wait, another court just changed that. Whoops, my bad. Again, this class uniquely positioned because they're right in between COVID and the new model here. And from Kentucky's perspective, I mean, like, there's no reason to really complain because we've kind of got what we wanted right now, especially if Mitchell does commit, because this is a massive win. There was a scenario this morning where the Colorado ruling gets stayed. Brian Edwards denies Mitchell, and Mitchell doesn't even have a chance to go back to Missouri even. But instead, Edwards granted Mitchell his own protection. Mitchell can and did already enter the portal with a do not contact tag according to On3. Kentucky can recruit him, which I'm guessing they already have. It's just a matter of time before he announces. Unfortunately, Kentucky's second biggest target here, Keyshawn Hall, has a much murkier situation because, well, as of right now, he's not eligible. So, the NCAA, congratulations. At the moment, you've won something. You wanted to stop the 2022 class from getting a blanket fifth year of eligibility. You got that. Great job. Unfortunately, you also wanted to stop Mark Mitchell from being eligible to play at Kentucky, including the conference commissioner, Greg Sankey. And as of today, you have also failed. Mitchell can wake up eligible tomorrow, which is great. And then another player from his class that's in the exact same position could also be denied. I think that's ridiculous. I think it's unfair. I really do think it's unfair. So we'll keep tabs on this. If Mitchell does commit, we'll celebrate. If he goes elsewhere, You know, as long as it's not Louisville, we'll have a semi-normal conversation about it. Maybe, maybe not. But as of right now, you can follow the show on Twitter at LockedOnUK, follow me on Twitter at LanceDawe_, and follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, you can leave those in the YouTube comments below. You can hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky, or today, actually. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless.